The morning started out peaceful enough as I rolled down the gravel of my long driveway, coffee in hand, only to realize halfway out that I'd forgotten the security access forms I needed to submit at the base. I threw my truck in park, jogged back, and because I knew I'd return in under a minute, left it sitting across the end of my own driveway, blocking absolutely no one except myself. But apparently, that was enough to spark DEFCON 1 for my next-door neighbor, Karen, who'd been watching me from behind her blinds like she was on some kind of undercover suburban surveillance mission. By the time I came back with the papers, she was already outside, hands on hips, phone in hand, screaming that I was blocking community access, even though my driveway was on my private land and the street was wide open. I calmly told her it was my property, my truck and my 5 minutes. But she went off like a fire alarm, yelling that I was violating traffic safety codes, and she had already called the police. I honestly would have just driven off to work. But when the cruiser pulled up and the officer stepped out looking confused, Karen sprinted to him dramatically, pointing at my truck like it was evidence from a crime scene. The officer walked over to me, asked for my ID, and I handed him my military credentials without a word. He stiffened immediately, eyes widening as he realized he wasn't just talking to some random homeowner. I was the commanding officer of the entire installation 2 miles down the road, the one responsible for every patrol unit, security checkpoint, and training operation they coordinated with. He looked from the ID to me, then to Karen, who was still ranting about civic responsibility, and you could see him trying not to laugh. I stepped closer, lowered my voice, and politely explained that blocking my own driveway wasn't a crime, that Karen had no authority to dictate anything on my property, and that her repeated false emergency calls were actually closer to a real violation than anything I had done. The officer nodded, told Karen she needed to stop misusing emergency services, and drove off. Karen stood there speechless for the first time since I'd moved in, her face draining as she realized the man she'd been lecturing about law and order was the same one who commanded the entire base she pretended to respect. I pulled away slowly, leaving her gawking on the curb, and for the first time in months, she didn't say a single word for the rest of the day.